What?
It's nice.
Close enough? A man called Lao Tzu talked about an idea that he said himself could not be properly described with words. He called it Wu Wei. The English translation is also two words, and those are actionless action. Two words, and already we have a contradiction, a paradox. How can anything have action yet be actionless at the same time? It's something that cannot be described with words. Please raise your hands and keep it raised if you have done any of the following. How many of you have played a musical instrument? Wow, that's more than I thought. How many of you like to sing or dance? Raise your hand and keep it raised if you like to play sports like skiing or snowboarding, martial arts, tai chi, yoga. How many of you like losing yourself in a math equation or reading a book? Now raise your hand and keep it raised. That looks like just about everybody. And the reason I ask is because I'm wondering how many people in the audience have engaged in some form of expression that may have led them to transcendence, to connecting with the Wu Wei. When I used to teach piano, I worked for the Royal Conservatory of Music here in Canada, and I had the privilege of speaking with a man who used to perform professionally on the piano at concerts. I was excited when I was talking with him. I asked him what he thought separated the really, really good players from the best. I'll always remember his reply. He said that the really, really good composers tend to smash keys, create crescendos, harmonies in melodies, in symphonies and orchestras. But he said the best players in the world came from the Russian school of thought. They emphasized tranquility. They focused on relaxation and inner peace. They focused on transcendence. Except Tchaikovsky. That guy loved his cannons. I'm just kidding. I hope I don't need to explain to you how good Tchaikovsky was, because I can't. It's something that cannot be properly described with words. It's beyond language. But those who followed the Russian school of thought were able to strike a key with their finger so rapidly and so gently that they could create one constant sound. And it kind of seems impossible at first, but they were able to do it because the sound already existed before they created it. It existed in their imagination. All they had to do was to let go and lose themselves. And in that moment, nothing matters. Not you, not anyone else. I mean, sure, there are members in the audience who have paid to see them, because you got to make a living somehow. But they're really not doing it for those members of the audience. They're not doing it for the standing ovation. They're not in it for the fame or the personal glory or even the recognition. The best of them simply step up and transcend and become the music from their imagination. I mean, if I was thinking about what you're all thinking about me right now, I'd be a lot more likely to slip up and make mistakes. I might get all self-conscious. Hopefully I don't. But if I were focusing on the audience, that's probably what would happen. Instead, we can look inwards and feel the forces around us. Work with them, move with them, and some of them we can even create. You can move with them, play with them, dance with them, sing with them. Just make sure that you work with them and not against them. Every moment, there are infinitely many bits of energy and information that form currents. Particles of dust, they can become forces like momentum and gravity, and you can work with them. Now, there's no way that I could possibly describe what I just did, something that cannot properly be described with words. I mean, would I be say, pivot your foot back and forth as you kind of turn? It's impossible. It really is. And what's particularly interesting is that my movements are catered to my body. I know this because about almost exactly 1 year ago, one of my best friends asked me if I could teach him how to dance just like me. I said, yeah, for sure, let's do it. So one dark winter night, in an apartment of a friend of ours, we were up against walls similar to this and a floor space similar to that. I told him a little bit about the basics of the Wu Wei. I told him this is one of those things where you need to just lose yourself. And then we went into the actual instruction. I told him to start pumping his arms in an upper diagonal direction and use a bit of strength. Then take your torso to torque yourself even harder. Because once you build up enough momentum, you can allow the Wu Wei to take control. I told him these things because once you build up enough momentum, you can dance and sing and twirl in any which way your body tells you to. And I like that because working with these forces, you really can make movements that you cannot describe. And so, in one of the most intense moments of that night, I tried to show him how to torque himself like that, where you start and then he dislocated his shoulder. Several times, actually. But thankfully, he's double jointed, so his body was able to repair itself. I find that particularly interesting because before that night, I was never aware that my movements are based on my own restrictions. Just the same as your movements, your way is based on yours. I have a lot of tight muscles in my upper back, so I hunch. But still, if I feel them, I can stretch. Find the limits and push them even further. My favorite analogy of the Wu Wei is one that involves a river. Imagine tiny drops of water dripping down until they pool up and begin flowing gently down and become a stream. Imagine that stream merges with another stream and they become one bigger, faster flowing stream. Imagine that happens again and again until that stream becomes a creek and the rocks in that creek become deeper and deeper as the waters flow faster until finally we have the currents of a raging river. Freeze. Freeze the river, that is. And by the way, this river represents everything. Every speck of dust, every particle of matter, every decision, every event in your lives and the world. Every combination of events that may take decades or centuries or even millennia to unfold. This river represents everything. Now, we've frozen the river so we can explore, we can look around. We can see every little nook and cranny, every fish, every rock. We can analyze those currents, and we can understand how to work with them. And it is important to work with them, because if we don't, we'll probably be fighting and flailing until our muscles fatigue, and we begin failing to reach wherever it is we're trying to go. I say that because there have definitely been moments in my life when I'm swimming in that river with my eyes closed as hard as I can in no particular direction. When we do that, it becomes very easy for those currents in that river, which are much bigger and stronger than we are, to overwhelm us and smash us into a rock. Because there are rocks in that creek, remember? As the creek became a stream and the rocks became deeper, even the bigger ones that started off as sharp, dangerous rocks became smooth stones and beautiful boulders as the currents of that river, of your everyday life, washed over them. They seem harmless, but if you collide with them at a high enough speed, at the wrong angle, it could be the end of you. Now, those rocks represent danger in any form. They could be an injury, like spraining your ankle. They could be a toxic work environment. They could be drugs or alcohol, which seem happy-go-lucky at the beginning, but over time wear down your body and mind. Those rocks really could be anything, including listening to what other people tell you without actually thinking for yourself. That's also danger. Those rocks really could be anything. And it's important when we're in this river to swim with the currents. Because that river is strong. And if we try to fight it, it's like an ant against a tsunami. Can you just picture it? I mean, a tsunami really would send you sailing. A tsunami would send you swirling and spinning in circles and cyclones in a storm of chaos and entropy. But by connecting with the way, we can catch ourselves. We can find those currents and continue to work with them. Now, just like my movements, my way, are unique to me, yours are to you. And they really will be different for everybody. Your way can be traced down to every little action or life decision. It might mean staying diligent and disciplined and then becoming a doctor or a lawyer. Or you might prefer to become a teacher or an artist or a tradesperson or a nurse or an entrepreneur. Your way is unique to you. It could be finding a meaningful career, traveling the world, volunteering to help others in need, raising a family. It really can be anywhere and everywhere. And it's not always rational. is not always something that can be properly described with words. So when you're trying to find it for yourself, when you're looking inward, when you've frozen that river, just think, actionless action. Way. Where's Tiffany?
Hey.
Filming.
Yep. Alright, sorry. I was coming down.